Is it UScene component that actually has the attached to component? Alright, so I basically just need to have this thing go off of a scene component for this to work, which is fine. We'll give it a position and orientation and all that crap. We might need it. Yeah, there's no attach on an actor component. So let's just make it a scene component. Alright. So scene component, all the scales. Got the kill set up properly. We're setting our duration. It's not looking bad. Let's set our duration properly. And we might want to just, instead of having all these methods there for like, it seems like that big struct is kind of annoying. It might be that we want our kind of setter functions on our effect controller component. We have nice like set start scale, set end scale, and all this sort of things. Probably easier to do it that way. So here it is going slow. And then it's getting real big. So it comes in and it's all the wrong color. It's all red and everything else. And then it gets super big. So it looks like it's doing what we wanted it to. So the simple effect controllers, and looks like the times are all doing what they should. The alpha channels coming in, all that. So I like it. It works. It looks like we have Z fighting with the effects. We should definitely have some sort of ordering thing work properly with them. We'll probably have that later. Let's take a look at what that effect, the explosion that we're playing there, what its frames per second. I think these are supposed to be 60. Yeah, so let's just save this at 60. So I'm not super happy about this effect parameter stuff. The return value is an actor reference. So we basically want to call like get component by class. Let me pass in the Dashkin effect. Yeah, the simple effect controller component. Snag that. And we want to call like set. Set effect intro params. Yeah, like we can do all sorts of stuff. Because we want basically some nice, easy to use functions there. So it'll be like create parameterized animated effect. It's probably easier instead of setting the parameters directly. It's probably easier to grab the parameters afterwards, or grab the component afterwards and just call like set X, Y, Z sorts of crap all over the place. So why don't we do that? Why don't we set up for that sort of functionality? Create simple parameterized effect, and let's not take params. So we got that, and we want this controller component, and we should definitely be defaulting some of these things a little bit better. So like inside of our constructor for our controller, simple controller component, we should probably be setting like start percent and end percent. We should just be setting all these to like -1.0f. So it's like none of it ever plays, and it's just gonna do the 0 to 1 for the life cycle. Because it should say like percent in phase is 1 if end and blah is that, otherwise it's gonna go default to lifetime params and percent, and that'll just work. Which is what it should do. So should we have functions on our use structs? No, we shouldn't. We should have some basic functions here. So it should be like set start color, set end color, set start and end color. No, just what would work easier? It would just be, I think what would work easier is just passing in like the floats directly for the colors. Same with scales and alphas and all that stuff. And then we give like an enum, maybe would be easiest for what to set. Because I'm thinking inside of blueprints, like we could make a whole bunch of different functions, or we could throw an enum on there for like which part of the life cycle and which thing to set, and that'll be real easy. So it'll be like effect control, effect life cycle part. So ELP intro, ELP lifetime and ELP outro. Life cycle. Alright, just life cycle. And outro. Excellent. So basically do like start color should be like float R, float G, float B, float A. And then the life cycle part. So we got set start, set end. For colors, let's do like set start alpha. Let's just not have the A in here. We'll just make another function for that. Set end alpha. Start and end scales. And we'll have like set percent start for like percent and like that, and then void set percent end for each of these things. And we should also just double check that we've got our if percent is greater than 0, greater than 1.0f, then percent equals 1.0f. If percent is less than equal to 0, then percent equals 0. Let's just clamp those things for us. Alright, so the clamp should prevent us from going back into our life cycle when we're in the wrong place. Okay, so percent start, percent end, and set time start and time end. We'll also need set interpolate color. Set interpolate color, and we'll just say like bool interp and also the interpolation type. And alpha and scale. Alright, so instead of the life cycles there, we're just gonna grab the const reference to the thing. We're kind of just breaking all this stuff up into what we want. These are not consts, these are just references. Need to get params for part, and we need to switch off of the switch off the type and return the correct reference. This be return. Oh, the effect params dot intro params case outro, return the outro, and otherwise just default to return life cycle or lifetime. So this is just going to be, we have a reference here, ref equals get params for thing and get params for part. Just call this thing with interp type ref. Just like that. So we'll change it all up. That way we're not copy pasting everything, just a few things. And this is all just glue. We're basically just doing all this busy work crap, so it'll be a lot easier later to actually implement what we want. So when Adam goes through this, or I go through this later, I'm just like spawn explosion, make it get bigger as it plays, and we're finished, sort of stuff. So we can do things real quick. At least that's the plan. Should actually call these things what they are. They're scales. Good afternoon, Karakan. I'm doing well. Just kind of a relaxing Sunday. Not doing much except work, but that's working out for me so far. We're just making some basic parameters for some linearly or exponentially interpolated values for our effects. So you can have an effect that gets bigger, changes color, things like that. Set interpolate scale. Interp type ref. Set interpolate alpha. Set interpolate color. Has no effect params, has no intro params. Yeah, it does. It's right there. It's totally right there. You're crazy. Yeah, so it's working out. Karakan, basically, like you can make an effect, give it a flip hook, and make it fade in. It has an intro, a middle, and an end, so you can like make something for a certain percentage of its time. Like if an explosion exists for 10 seconds, it can fade in or get bigger within the first like 10%. Then it can, maybe it changes its, while it's playing it doesn't do anything, or maybe it gets bigger and then its outro could like fade it out or whatever. So if your explosion was not like start to end fully animated, if maybe the thing that you're doing is just like a red circle or something, and you just want it to like get bigger and fade out and everything, and you have a whole bunch of those, this can play that. Alright, so this is going to be part dot color interpolation equals type, and this is mod color. So this will be mod alpha, this will be alpha, interpolation, and mod alpha. And we're just implementing the convenience functions and all in order to make this actually work. We've already got it working in the game, just we're now making it so it's not such a pain in the butt to actually use. Only 2 hours till Adam streams? Yeah, go get some sleep. Have a good one, Karakan. Take it easy. Don't stress yourself out too much. Alright, setting the end color. Alright, so set start scale and end scale. So we need scales here, and probably all these guys are going to be scaling themselves uniformly, so I'm not going to worry too much about all the things. And IntelliSense is just angering me right now. That it's popping these things up actually slows me down when I'm typing because I'm used to it not popping up, and I have to hit escape to close it. Crap like that. Or like you mouse over something and then all of a sudden it pops a little window up over what you're looking at and you're like, get out of here! Get the bullshit. I'm almost just like at the point where I'll just disable it entirely. Because it doesn't work when you want it to, and then it works when you don't want it to. It's just like, why? Why even have this feature? So end percent. This will be part start time equals time. End time is time. Alright, let's just... Yeah, well, we're already screwed. We have to go do this anyway, so let's just get it over with. And some people might say, why in the hell are you writing all these function headers for these functions that don't do anything? Be like, well, because I just do. And yeah, so much red, yeah. There's red everywhere. IntelliSense is just super pissed. Because I haven't declared any of the functions yet. And I always put function headers on everything, even if it's just boneheadedly obvious what the damn thing does. Because there's always the chance that the function looks like it's completely obvious, but maybe, you know, scale or interpolate or whatever the hell word you used, like add these two or multiply or do this operation. Maybe that didn't actually, maybe it's not the same word. in this context. So you're like coming from like the graphics system. You're like, oh, well, this position is in world space or something, and you're like, set position should totally work. And then in some other thing, you're like, oh, this is in screen space because I'm in the UI, and just your brain will be like, oh yeah, set position totally should work. And then you look at it, it's like sets world position. You're like, oh, okay, yeah, not good. I've had way too many experiences with stuff like that where you're like, oh, this totally should do this, and then it just doesn't. Ah, so much typing. Alright, so now we need to actually declare all these methods. Ah. Very cool. And I kind of did this out of order. I should have done the declaring stuff first, just so I wouldn't have to go through and delete all these things and waste more time. But whatever. It doesn't take too long to do all this. Yeah, I'm just being quiet because I'm just typing stuff out. Alright, so we are wanting to set this part to a specific part. So we're going to want to have all these things default to the life cycle chunk of it, just so you don't have to worry too much about any of the things. And we want this interpolation type to be linear by default as well. And then we'll just make them all callable from blueprints. So now we can call all the things and they're all defaulted properly, so we can change absolutely everything. So this will be parameters for calling your parameters for changing our behavior. And we're also going to make it simpler to fetch the controller component. But we're going to do that by making a function on our effect actor, which is going to be like get effect controller. On our effect actor, and it's just going to be a wrapper around like return get find component by class, and it's just gonna do that. So if it exists, it will return it for us. So we should be, in our blueprints, we should be able to just call get effect controller on the return value from create parameterized effect, and then we should be able to call like set start and all that fun stuff. And let's try to forward declare this thing, because it's getting angry at us. Scale is undefined. Set start scale. Yeah, the scale should be there. Percent is undefined. Fix all the basic problems. Find component by class must be derived from U actor component. I was like, it totally does. Dashkin, simple effect controller. That's why I don't like template stuff in C++. It's one reason. There's a lot of reasons, but like this thing is saying, oh well, template parameter has to be a UActor component, and you're like, well, a U-Dashkin simple effect controller component is a frickin' actor component. Like, don't give me that crap. That's like, well, at this point, the compiler has no idea what this thing is. It just knows it's a class because we forward declared it in our class header. But if we include the header, which actually defines the class, then it's like, oh, well, it is a UActor component. It's like, well, why the hell didn't you just say, like, trying to make template function with unknown type? Like, that would have actually, you know, been a good error message. But nah, template functions have just garbage, trash tier error messaging. So let's take a look here at our gameplay player and see if we can do some things with it. So we're actually going to copy all this crap We're not going to call create parameterized animated effect. It's going to be create simple. Well, what the hell do we call this thing? Create simple parameterized animated effect. And this is that context sensitive thing, again, not showing us what the hell we wanted, which is just obnoxious as all hell. The entity utils reference. Did we not make it a static method? We did not. So with the return value, we're going to call get effect controller. What's it actually returning? The return value is an actor reference. Yeah, we also need to change that to not be an actor reference, but an effect actor reference. And now we should be able to call some of these things. Excellent. Of course, we're just waiting around compiling, like we love to do. Gotta love compiling. Ooh, yeah. So let us actually spawn this thing and then set it up. And hopefully it's a lot easier to use than that big effect structure object as a variable on our blueprint class. Should be, at least. Should be. So let's see, the return value here is a Dashkin effect actor reference. So we should be able to call get effect controller. And then we should be able to call like set start scale. And let's set its start scale to 1. And then we will set its set end scale. And we'll set the end scale to like 100. And we'll change this from 8,000 to 12,000. Let's see if this does what we want it to. It's angry because we didn't give it a position. Alright, well, we'll just throw a position in there. Yeah, it's gigantic! Ah! Why, buddy? What have you done? So many explosions. Cool, so that's a lot easier to use than all that big parameterized crap. At least I think so. And we can just, you can mess around with the life cycle, and if you wanted to set a whole bunch of stuff, you could, but you don't have to. So we can make more convenience functions, but I'm gonna leave that to later. Let's go take a look at what Adam was working on real quick. Let's boot up his camera test too. Because I think he was making a whole bunch of assets last night. So I want to take a look at what it looks like now. Looks like there's a whole bunch of stuff to load at least. Oh cool, look, we got like forest and stuff going, don't we? That looks great. Look at that. Got all these trees in the background. The waterfall looks even cooler. Like, yeah, look at that waterfall. Yeah, he's been doing some work on it. Definitely starting to look a lot more like Brackenwood. You know? Like, look at that. You can see the waterfall in the background through the tree line. Love it. What's going on with that texture there? Okay, he's got like these sprite textures which are tileable. It looks like, yeah, so he's got these tileable sprite textures like this one. But he hasn't locked them together. Let me see if he's got it checked out. I can actually just fix a few of these little bits for him. Because you can see when it moves back and forth that, there's some clipping issues there right in between them. You see the seams. Well, how wide are these things? The sprite is... Let's look at its texture. The texture is 4096. So 4096 should be the. Let's see what he put as the scale. The scale is 1, so this thing should be 4096 wide. So this thing should be. Like if we put these right on top of each other, and we just say like, can we do formulas in here? So it's like plus 4096. Yeah, so if we did a formula there, this guy still obviously has a seam in it. Does he still have it in the game? Yeah, definitely. Well, what if we subtracted 1 to it? Like 5. Just put it right. No, it's still. Still gonna look like crap, isn't it? Yeah, so for those sorts of things, we probably have to. It depends. We'll have to take a look at exactly what we want for all the sprites. But I can't see the seam anymore, so you can at least kind of hack fix it. That's a foreground tree. That's pretty awesome. You see there's that little seam right there that's making him get angry. Yeah, you can see the collision there. Oh man, we got some brambles. Cool. No, no, I'm on the bottom of the world. To infinity and beyond. See if we can check this out. Yeah, looks like we can. He's got it all nicely done. So cool. Oh, that's interesting. So that's his tree, is actually this whole thing here. Interesting. Very cool. Yeah, but we can't do these sorts of tile things as separate textures, probably. What you'd want to do is you'd want to apply. This should be like one piece of geometry with a texture that's it uses a separate texture for the other one, or it mirrors this texture but it flips it, and that we can just do that with vertex values. Like it goes from 0 to 1 to 0 with the verts for the UV coordinates. So should be possible to do that sort of thing. It looks like he's having some fun with it. Cool. Love it. And then we've got my level, which is just full of explosions, horribleness, and giant slow explosions. Alright, so we've got a lot of stuff actually working here. So that finishes off those effects. So the next thing that we'd want to do is create a persistent effect. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to check in the work that we got done right now, and I'm going to go and break for a while. And I think it'll be a little bit longer break, so I'm going to turn the stream off and all that. It's been about 3 hours, so we'll call that good. And I may be back to do more work. I want to get basically an image trail of Bitey. Basically, I want to be able to take the paper flipbook component and grab the current sprite that it's in and save that sprite in the scene for a certain amount of time and have it disappear. So, you know, an image trail like you would see in anything, and it should be a persistent effect. Basically, an effect that spawns effects, which would be the effect is the image trail, and it's creating, when you're moving, it will create things coming off you and all that, and it should be good. It should be locked to Bitey and all that stuff, so we should have rotation and everything else. It should be good. And we'll also probably want to make an effect. Yeah, so we make 2 effects. Let me write that down. Let's make a persistent flame attached to an object. Let's make a persistent flame around Bitey. Let's turn Bitey into a Super Saiyan. Let's do that. So that's what I'll be working on later today, maybe. Otherwise, I'll be doing that like tomorrow or something. So thanks for sticking around, and I will be back after I eat and do whatever the hell else is that I do during my day. Like.